Well, unfortunately, I was right on one of my predictions, and Alonzo Highsmith is not coming to the University of Miami. What's going on, Canes fans? The reports are starting to roll in that Alonzo Highsmith will not be taking a job at the University of Miami. And I know what everybody wants to know. Who do we point the finger at? Whose fault is this? It appears to be a little bit of both sides not being able to come to an agreement based on the pay that was offered up and the responsibilities and duties and level of power. Now, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned my prediction being correct about the Alonzo Highsmith hire. I want you to take a look at what I had to say on January 8th when asked about Alonzo Highsmith. If I thought that he would actually be hired, if I thought it was a done deal, what was going on with that situation? Does he actually want it when it comes down to it? When they sit down and they say, here's what this position is going to be, here's your duties, here's your level of power, here's your pay. He might not even want it. So we do have to consider that. We have to think about that. Just saying, I'm just putting it out there. I'm not trying to be the bad guy. But I'm just saying we do have to think about that. Do I think he ends up at Miami? I do not. No. That's my prediction. I could 100% be wrong on it. I'm wrong all the time. But I don't think that he actually ends up at Miami. I don't think that the position is exactly what he wants it to be, and I don't think the pay will be what he wants it to be. And whether they do that on purpose or not, I can't tell you. I don't know. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking, and I'm going to tell you it's wrong. I am not bringing up that clip from the live stream to say, oh, I told you guys so. There was no way that Alonzo Highsmith was getting hired at Miami. That's not the point. The reason I play that clip from that live stream is just to remind people that you have to be careful with the stuff that you read and that you see online on social media, on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all these different various Miami Hurricanes forums, because there were a ton of people saying just last week that the Alonzo Highsmith hire was a done deal, that the paperwork was signed and an announcement was coming in the next 24 to 48 hours, and that was literally last week. So you have to be careful with what you pay attention to and listen to on social media. Now, that was merely just a prediction, an educated guess. I in no way had any kind of inside sources or anything like that, and I'm not pretending like I do. It was a lucky guess. And you guys know that I was pushing for Highsmith to the U. I made a video just last week literally titled Alonzo Highsmith to Miami. Let's make this happen. But if you really step back and think about it, and that's what we were doing last night during the live stream, it'd be kind of difficult to work out a deal where both parties in this situation are happy. We talked about the fact that the chief of staff position could vary slightly from school to school. They could twist it and add different responsibilities and duties and levels of power. Just think of it this way: a manager at Walmart versus a manager at Target. Same title, but each one could have different duties and responsibilities and levels of power depending on what the company decides that position exactly is. So it really sounds like that neither side could come to an agreement when it comes to pay and duties, responsibilities, level of power. And it is what it is. Alonzo Highsmith probably would have been overqualified technically for what the chief of staff position would be. Again, Miami could have tweaked it to make it be something for him, but did they really actually even want to do that? We don't really know, right? Because a lot of people could view this as, well, we made an offer to Alonzo Highsmith, but he declined. The offer was there on the table, but he didn't take it. He didn't want it. But you could look at it from Alonzo Highsmith's point of view, and he could say, listen, I have loads of experience. I've got a long resume. I care about this university, this football program. I want to help put it back on top again. So let's tweak this position. Let's get the pay right and get me in here, and I want to help make this happen. Is that what he said? I don't know. Either way, it ain't happening. And there are going to be a lot of people within the program that are very upset about this. There were guys, boosters and things and trustees that were pushing, saying, I'll even pay a couple years of his salary, that really wanted him on this staff. But again, we don't really know, even if he was on the staff, exactly what that chief of staff position would be when it comes to Miami. Again, we know what the chief of staff position typically is and what job duties it holds, but for Miami, what exactly would that be? Maybe he would have had little to no power at all. Now, for me, I was still okay with this, even if that was the case, because I liked the idea of having him on the staff. So if something happened later on down the road, you see where I'm going with this, right? If somebody happened to step down or get fired, Alonzo Highsmith was there with the qualifications, with the experience to potentially take somebody's place. You see what I'm saying? So I was okay even if it was a lesser role. But again, if it's a lesser role, the pay probably doesn't line up given his background and what he was making in the NFL. So that doesn't even mean that he wants to take it. But anyways, I'm beating a dead horse. We already talked about this last night in the live stream, and we already know that it's not happening. What I want to see you guys do is respond and react to this. How do you feel with the Alonzo Highsmith deal not going through? Do you think that this, again, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but do you think that it was done on purpose? Again, to say maybe we extended an offer he didn't accept. Do you think that it just wasn't enough money involved? Do you think that the duties and responsibilities and level of power just weren't enough? What do you think about this? How do you feel about it? Make it known down in the comment section below. I'm bummed about it. Like I said, I was pushing for it. I liked the idea of it, but I just don't think the position was going to give him enough power, and I don't think that there was enough money offered up to make it happen. And if he doesn't feel like that he was put in a position to really make a big impact in the program, would he really even want to take it? As I said, he loves the University of Miami and this football program, but if he can't come in and really make a difference immediately, you may not be interested. Now, before we wrap up this video, I do want to mention that while I was editing this video, a couple of snippets from some interviews came out with Alonzo Highsmith and Blake James. Now, Alonzo Highsmith said yes, of course, as we already just discussed, the door is closed. He's not coming to Miami. But he did mention that it was really only people on the board of trustees that were pushing for him and fans. That supposedly really none of the coaches were really that interested in him being at the University of Miami. And I'm assuming that that includes Blake James, because Blake James came out and they asked him what he's looking for when it comes to filling the chief of staff role. And he said this, and I quote, "Someone who will work with Manny. In any organization, you have to have alignment and you have to have the right chemistry. That is something that he feels could be helpful to him, and so I am going to be full supportive with making that happen." So basically what they are saying, most likely, is that Alonzo Highsmith, for what they wanted in that role, would have been overqualified, but at the same time, I do think they might have been a little scared to have someone with those qualifications looking over Manny's shoulder, right? That they probably would have butted heads, and they wanted to avoid that. Now, that's kind of tough, because that kind of makes it sound like, hey, this guy could come in and make some serious changes, but they're not really open to that. And a lot of people feel like Alonzo Highsmith, given the experience and his track record and his love for the university, that he would most likely, I know we don't know for sure, but would probably have the best interest in mind and be willing to make those hard choices and those tough changes, right? So that kind of hurts to hear that. I mean, yes, I see a little bit where they're coming from, but again, man, that really kind of hurts the more I think about it with those quotes. Man, the more I think about those quotes, the more it does kind of hurt, because based on what he's saying, based on what Highsmith is telling us, is that the coaching staff and Blake James really just didn't have much interest. But don't rule out this happening later on down the road, maybe with a different position at the university, because Alonzo Highsmith has now expressed interest in some type of role at the university. And for everyone who really just dislikes Blake James or Manny Diaz, one or the other or both, think of it this way. This puts everything on them, right? A lot of people said that Alonzo Highsmith could potentially have been kind of a scapegoat, which I hate thinking about it that way, but it could be a possibility, right? You bring in a new guy that's supposed to help turn the program around. Maybe they tweak that position, give him more power. And then Blake James says, well, we brought the guy in that you guys wanted, and this season was still a failure. So everything is on their shoulders now. Manny Diaz and Blake James and this staff have to perform in the 2020 season. It's on them. But as I said, let your opinions be known on this. I'm super bummed, but it is what it is. We pushed for it. That's all that we can really do as fans is make our opinion known, be vocal about it, and hope that the right and the best thing happens. But remember, though, guys, we are all one big happy college football family. But at the end of the day, I got to say, it's always better when you get to rep the U. Coach Coop, peace out.